following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
Welcome to the System is Down.
Hello, hello, hello. What's up, Downers? Welcome back to The System is Down. On today's episode, I did something a little different than our typical chats. My wife and I recently sat down together and watched the new Hollywood blockbuster called Get Out, and I had a lot of thoughts on it, and I just wanted to rant about it, so I thought, what the heck, why not record it? So, I hit up my friend, fellow podcaster, comedian, and pop culture guru, Brian McWilliams of the show Electric Liberty Land, which is a part of the Lions of Liberty podcast, and brought him on to give his expert take on the film. Now, during the conversation, I said something to the effect of this movie being only about racism, but pretending to not be just about racism. While editing this episode, I realized that I never really explained that statement. My reasoning behind this thought was that in the movie, the rich white people basically idolize the black people, and at the end, the art dealer even says something like, "It doesn't make a difference if the victims are black or not. I just wanted you for your eyes," something like that. So, to me, it just seems like this film was making a blatant statement about racism, which is totally fine. Django Unchained, Roots, whatever. I have no problem with narratives that shed light on social issues or injustices at all, but if that's what the movie is, stick to your guns. Those few points in the film just seem to be kind of lightly backpedaling on the issue, almost as if to, avoid criticism on the primary point that we're trying to make. So yeah, keep that point in mind as I gracefully talk out my ass. Also, as should be expected in an hour-long breakdown of any film, there will definitely be spoilers in this episode. So if you want to watch the film first, go do it now. Even with all the criticisms that you're going to hear in this discussion, I still think it's a worthwhile film and a pretty good watch, actually. If you're not concerned about spoilers or have no intention of watching the film at all, I still think it was an entertaining and enjoyable discussion. So, all that said, and without further ado, let's get weird. My guest today is the creator and host of the podcast Electric Liberty Land, which is a part of the Lions of Liberty podcast. He is also a comedian, I believe. Is that correct?
Of sorts. Yes,
sorts.
I dabble in the stand-up arts.
Well, I'd like to welcome fellow podcaster and comedian of sorts, the great Brian McWilliams. How's it going, Brian?
Oh, it's going great, Dan. Good to be back. I mean, I've never been here before, but it feels like I've been here before. You know, it's got a homey feel to it. We're doing a video chat right now. I can see your CD collection perched above the door. I mean, I feel like I'm living in the room with you. It's great.
Well, welcome to my house.
And welcome to my apartment. Because in Los Angeles, nobody has a goddamn house.
Nobody can afford it, but that's not what we're here to discuss. As I've talked about on this show quite a few times, I'm a fan of the Lions of Liberty podcast, and I have not had a chance to have either you or John or Mark on the show yet, and who would have thought that, you'd be the first one?
I'm glad, man. It's called putting your best foot forward. Well, Mark and Odie are both well likable guys and well versed in libertarian thought. They don't bring the depth of intellectual curiosity to the table and humor that I can bring. So your audience is lucky that this is their first glimpse.
Absolutely. This is not at all a glimpse into the Lions of Liberty podcast because we're not here to discuss politics or libertarianism in any way whatsoever.
No.
But I'll give you a chance if you want to give your 5-second elevator pitch for liberty to the listeners. Go ahead.
Oh, for liberty as a whole?
Yep, just the entire thing. 5 seconds. Go.
All right, ready? Here's the whole thing. Hey, fuck off. That's it. That's libertarianism. That's it in a nutshell, man. Telling people to leave you the fuck alone.
That's perfect. I love it. Well, yeah, I decided to have Brian on this show because I watched a movie the other day that is a fairly popular movie going around right now. And I was ranting to my wife about it. She kept telling me to shut up, so I decided to get on here and rant with somebody else who may or may not agree. The movie is Get Out, and Brian, you said you've seen it. True or false? Did I ask you what your opinion was of the movie before we came on here?
You did not. So this is all coming straight off the cuff, man. It's funny. I haven't talked to anybody but my wife about this movie. And even then, it wasn't an in-depth conversation. I think we were both tired. It was kind of like, oh, I won't go into what we said to each other. We'll save that. But yeah.
Well, let's get into it. What do you remember of the movie? What's your first impression? How does it make you feel?
All right. Well, at first blush, when I first finished it, I was like, all right, that was pretty good. And then at second blush, I was like, I don't understand the hype about it. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, it was a solid film. I enjoyed it. I like Jordan Peele. I thought he did a good job directing it. But, as a cisgendered white male, I was like, all right, that's a good film. But I mean, did it deserve to have 98% of Rotten Tomatoes or whatever? And people saying
99 right now.
What is it at 89?
99 right now.
Look, I guess because everybody like me, probably people were like, yeah, it was pretty good. And that's like for Rotten Tomatoes, that's enough to be like, oh, fresh. So it was, it was good. It was entertaining. Would I watch it again? Yeah, probably sometime.
Not to prep for this show, but maybe sometime, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not a couple months. I saw it recently enough, though. I remember it pretty well. I mean, I don't have the best memory from drinking a martini right now. This has something to do with that. But, I can remember a lot of the film. So, I mean, I don't want to give it away. I figured maybe you want to run it down. Well, are we presuming everybody's seen this goddamn movie that's listening to this podcast?
That's a great question.
Are people just going to tune in to get spoiled?
Well, I'll give a spoiler alert at the beginning, assuming that people have seen it. But if you haven't seen it, don't give a shit about it. You're not planning on watching it, and you're just here to hear us rant about something you know nothing about. The movie is basically about this guy, black guy, named Chris. I wouldn't specify if that wasn't the entire point of the movie, but he is in fact a black guy.
We do need to, since this is an audio format, I think it's good you point this out. I think every character you need to point out black or white. I think you should call him B Chris, and other people call him like white whatever, W whatever her dad's name is.
So Chris is this guy who he's dating this chick named Rose, and they go to visit her parents and find out, okay, I'm just going to give the very quick summarized spoiled version. Her parents are crazy white people, and they have crazy white people friends, and they are kidnapping these black people and stealing their parts of their brains. They are stealing the bodies of these black people and putting these old dying white people's brains into parts of their brains. So these white people are inhabiting the bodies of black people so they can become, quote, younger, cooler, faster. So my initial impression of this movie, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little more cynical, but okay, I heard about this movie coming out, and I love Jordan Peele. I love Key and Peele and all that, and this was his directorial debut, and as a sketch comedian, him doing a horror movie with like comedy undertones, that was intriguing, and it getting a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes for any movie, any horror movie especially, that just blew my mind. I was like, this has to be a good movie. So my hopes were set pretty high on this going into it. About 10-15 minutes in, they started to sink a little bit when I realized that it was kind of just racial pandering the entire movie, in my opinion. And I don't say that because there's a problem necessarily with pointing out racism or using racism as a story premise. I have no problem with that, but it kind of pretends that that's not the case. It pretends like it's just a horror movie and it has nothing to do with race necessarily. But my thesis here, if I were to have one, would be that this is a mediocrely good movie, well shot, well acted, well scripted even, that would not be getting a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes if it did not have anything to do with race. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on a lot of levels, actually. And when I saw it, I mean, and I actually listening to a lot of interviews with Jordan Peele too afterwards, where he was like, well, I wanted to make a movie commenting on this post-racist, quote unquote, post-racist society because people were like, oh, Obama's in office and, when we got a black president, then racism doesn't exist. And he's like, so I wanted to point out that there's still racism going on constantly all the time. Now, on some level, I agree with that, but probably not to the same extent that Jordan Peele thinks that it's going on, and then a lot of people that might, some people of color think that, you know what, they've never really experienced it. I know a lot of black people that are like, well, sometimes you get a weird look, but a lot of the time I hang out with people, I don't really feel it as much. And then you got people like Jordan Peele who are actively looking for it. It's like, and a lot of his sketch comedy is centered around that. So it's like, if you're actively looking for it, you're going to see racism where it probably doesn't exist a lot of the time or read into it. And a lot of what I saw in this movie was, I guess, he did it in a little bit of a clever way, because he did that whole thing with like the sunken place, right? Is that what they called it? The sunken place. Where the sunken place, in my interpretation of this, is it's supposed to be what Black America is doing to itself, or what white America is forcing Black America to do. And in the movie, you'll remember it. They're hypnotized and they fall into this sunken place, and then they become virtual zombies, and they can't claw their way back out. And I think Jordan Peele is being like, well, you know what, we've become white people, and we are now in the sunken place, and we can't crawl our way back out of the sunken place unless somebody that's true black snaps us out of it by accident. And that, I think, is like a little bit ridiculous to say. I mean, I understand. Again, it makes sense on some level, because black people are altering what they may feel is their inherent black culture to fit into white America. But at the same time, everybody does the same goddamn thing. We all do that, depending on the situation we're in, to get ahead of
that happens
else.
In the movie. The white people in the movie, and this is one of the reasons why they say, oh, it's not portraying all white people as racist, is because it's these rich white people who are... they are appreciating quote-unquote black culture, and because they think that these people are stronger, faster, cooler, agile, whatever.
It's a compliment.
Yes. So the fact that he's saying that white people are pulling black people into more of a white mindset doesn't make any sense, because in the movie, the white people are enjoying... This is getting confusing already. The white people are enjoying the black people's personalities and complimenting them and everything, which I think is kind of... I don't think that it is an intention to portray white people as being appreciative, but more like stealing black culture and cultural appropriation, that type of thing. But
yeah. Well, I mean, I wonder if there's... What's the idea then, I guess... I was trying to figure out if he's trying to say, or what he's trying to say with this whole thing about, okay, well, white people are implanting themselves in our brains and controlling us. Because they go into the sunken space is one thing. That's like a hypnotism thing where they're stuck. But then you've got this whole concept of white people taking over and living in black people. I mean, is that... Like you're saying, is that the cultural appropriation angle there? That white people are culturally appropriating black people, and then thus they are white people in black skin, and thus, cultural appropriation, because, hey, really, you're white, motherfucker, but you're putting on this in this case, authentic blackface because they're actually in black skin. What do you think about that concept? And I don't know, and I even heard him say that specifically. It was just me spitballing.
No, that's a very good point. I think that's a lot of it, personally. I mean, I rewatched the film today, and there isn't a single white person in this film who is not either crazy or racist. Like, there's no normal white person, quote unquote. The black guy, Logan, who is brainwashed by a white guy, obviously, and is acting like an old white man, basically. And when Chris reaches out his hand to fist bump him, the guy just grabs his hand like he doesn't know what a fist bump is. I totally think that you're onto something with that cultural appropriation thing, for sure.
By the way, Chris looks like a young Logan looked like a young Most Def. Yeah, right? Yeah. Like it's Most Def to a T. The other thing this has nothing to do with the actual content of the movie, by the way, but sure. Brian Williams' daughter is in that movie. She's the lead white chick who cons her boyfriend in. And by the way, so jumping ahead to the end, total spoilers.
Go for it.
They were like, oh, the end is such a surprise where she turns out to be in on the whole thing from the start.
Yeah.
And it's like, how is this a surprise? Who was surprised by this? I mean,
she's white. She's going to be crazy.
Right, yeah. You saw it coming. She's a hot white girl. Yes, she's nuts anyway. And she's not even, in my opinion, she's like one of those chicks like on that Seinfeld where they go in the booth and it's like, half the time she's hot, half the time she's not hot. That's why I go back and forth with that girl. But
sure.
But yeah, it's like I thought it was the most obvious ending ever. And I also figured out exactly what was happening about halfway through the film. Again, I don't consider
Yeah.
this movie that original of a concept. Like, it's just
Exactly.
I like you said, the 99% of Rotten Tomatoes, I don't get why that's a thing and why these people are bending over backwards. It's like, you want to see some not reverse racism, but you want to see people bend over backwards to try to go, look, I love black people and I love black culture, and I'm going to prove it by saying this movie is great, even when it's not that great. I swear to God, that's half of these percentages are from that. And again, not to take away from the movie, but come on, it's not that great.
Absolutely. I mean, there's 1,000 plot holes in this movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I really would enjoy it if it wasn't so blatant pandering. But there's 1,000 plot holes in this movie. It's, like I said, it's acted well, scripted well, everything. But look at it this way. I definitely understand the fact that we are two straight white males talking about race, and for some reason that's not okay. But I'm not a racist. Brian, are you a racist?
I try my best, but hey, everybody slips up.
Yeah.
No, I kid. I'm not. No.
I mean, we could just go through some of the plot holes in this movie that would make it not a 99%, in my opinion, if it weren't this cultural dichotomy.
Lay it on me, Smots. Lay them on me.
Sure. Before we do that, I'd like to ask you what percentage you think this movie would have gotten if it was white people brainwashing white people.
Oh, white people brainwashing white people? 54%.
How about black people brainwashing white people?
78%.
Never would have gotten into studios, I don't think, or into theaters.
Probably not, but you never know, man. Because again, it's that same scenario of it's black power. We can't. Whitey don't want to speak up and say anything because we don't want to look like we're racist. Again, it really does color the conversation to an extent where it's like very frustrating. Just like with I still have not seen the all-female Ghostbusters, and I didn't not see it because it's all women. I didn't see it because I was furious they remade it and called it Ghostbusters instead of renaming it something else. And they basically remade it from the beginning rather than making it a spin-off or a sequel, which really pissed me off. But it also just looked like a terrible film. Like, the trailer looked like shit. And I was like, if you could tell, most trailers have the funniest parts of a movie. It had the most unfunny gags in it, like embarrassingly bad gags, where I was like, I don't want to see this piece of dump. But meanwhile, you have all these people going out of their way to be like, anybody who says this movie isn't great is just a sexist male. And it's like, fuck off. Yep. And then you got Wonder Woman comes out. And this is what I posted on Twitter. I was like, okay, everybody likes Wonder Woman, right? Can we all agree then that Ghostbusters just fucking sucked? Come on.
It's a very good point. You guys got your movie, okay?
Yeah,
we all love a good movie, no matter who's in it.
Right. It's like that to me, where it's just I made a bad pun without knowing it, but it is. Everything's colored by the race conversation, where people don't want to be accused of being racist or call it as it is for fear of repercussion.
Right. So in this movie, Chris goes to visit this family of crazy white people, and they have two black people working for them, which we find out in the end is her grandma and grandpa, who have inhabited the bodies of these two black people. What makes no sense to me is why, if you were this grandma or this grandpa and you're young and agile and spry now, what do you choose to do after that? Do you choose to stick around the plantation and do housework to look like a slave?
I was saying, good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's actually something I noticed as well. And I thought that of myself. I'm like, why is grandma serving lemonade and being a weirdo? And also,
Grandpa's out chopping wood. But meanwhile, Grandpa's also sprinting around the yard in the middle of the night because he feels so great. Yes.
And Grandma, they never explained this. Did Grandma's operation go wrong? Because why is she like spacing out and
psychopath
and shaking her hand and being a wonker? And she's like, why don't you go lie down? She's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like, well, she's young now, right? Like, she's not an old person. She doesn't need to go lie down. Like that was very confusing.
Yeah, Grandma doesn't do a single normal thing in the entire movie, but we're supposed to believe that she's just a white old lady's brain in a young black woman's body.
Yeah, apparently they wasted too much time. Grandma already went senile before they found a nice new black person to put her in.
Yes. Yeah, and the grandpa thing. Well, my question is, if these are just elderly white people interacting with people through a black person's body, why do they act like psychos the entire time? Even when the grandpa talks to him, he, like, I understand you're making a horror movie, so somebody's got to be creepy, but if they were trying to cover this up, why would they even let grandma and grandpa come out and visit this kid when he's coming over to visit?
That's true. Be like, hey, go hide out. Why don't you guys go out of town for a bit? Well, I guess they had that big gathering, but yeah, like the grandpa character, he was like, they're like, hey, why don't you make a face like a jack-o'-lantern all the time? When this guy, and that's literally what it was. It was like this crazy face he'd make. It's like, wouldn't you just act like a normal person? Like he's speaking in cryptic, in like these cryptic short sentences too, where it's like you go. I mean, I thought the black guy, and I guess this is intentional. The black guy was the woodcutter, and I apologize, can't remember his name, but his grandpa character as a black man, you know, he was acting like he had something to hide and he couldn't say too much. But it was more, you got the feeling it was like, okay, so he is who he is. He's just scared of talking. Not that he's grandpa in this black dude's body, because if he was, like you said, you'd be glib. You'd be talking like, I'm good to see you.
Exactly.
Welcome around. And by the way, why didn't they talk in like a whitey accent? That's what I want. I mean, some of them did, but I wanted more like an old timey vibe.
Right. Calling him Sonny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more Sonnies in there.
Now, back before they go to this plantation, this mansion where the family is, this deer comes across the road while they're just driving, and they hit the deer. Can you tell me what purpose this scene served in a movie that isn't just deliberately about racism? They got pulled over, or they called a cop to come out and look at it. This white cop comes, the only other white guy in the movie who's not at the farm. He comes out, and he asks for Chris's ID, and the girlfriend gets uncomfortable. She's like, why do you need his ID? I mean, just throwing in one more racist exemplification before we even get into the story. I don't know. In my opinion, served no purpose in the film at all.
See, I disagree with you there. I thought it was supposed to be signify the ominous nature of where they're going. You know, that black people are viewed as suspicious.
I'm saying it served no purpose if you're not just making a film about racism.
Well, true, but I mean, this is a film about racism.
That's my point.
As we know. No, agreed. But I also, you know what, is it just me or what's her name? Marnie on Girls. Like I said, I don't remember her name in this movie. Marnie / his wife / Brian Williams' daughter.
Rose?
Scene, Rose, is that her name? Yeah. Rose,
yeah.
I wanted to smack her. Because she was so annoying during that scene. Like, I know it's like, you know, she's protecting her man. I'm like, I would have been like, hey, can you just shut the fuck up and let me give him the ID so we can get out of here?
Right.
Can you just do that for me? I mean, I know you're trying to help, but you know, you're trying to help. It's like my buddy Rico, who you know of, you're probably a lot of listeners don't, but he comes on the Lions of Liberty podcast sometimes. Yeah. But he had a girlfriend, crazy girlfriend, who was living with him, and his plates, he was driving her car, and her plates were not registered yet. And in L.A., you have to register your plates within like 6 weeks so they can impound your car. So the cop pulls them over. He's had a couple drinks. She's hammered in the side seat. And the cop comes up to them, and she's drunkenly like, don't you have anything better to fucking do? What? Get a fucking real job. And he's just like, you got to shut up. Because it's like, you're not helping. And of course, they impounded the car. Anyway, sorry. Side tangent there.
It's all good. So after all that, they decide to go to the house and everything. Chris asks Rose if her parents know that he's black, and they make a big deal about that. She's like, no, they don't know. Why would she tell them they don't know that he's black?
Right?
What purpose does that serve?
Unless you're just a individual that only dates black people to piss your parents off.
Yes.
And that's the only reason you wouldn't tell them, because you're like, it'll be extra super good if they don't know I'm bringing home a black guy. Right. Yeah, I know. I literally turned to my wife when I was watching it. I was like, why would she not tell him? That's the first thing I would do. Like, my ex is a Chinese girl, you know, and fairly far into it. When she's going to visit, I was like, by the way, just so you know, she's Chinese. I mean, her name was Lou, so it wasn't exactly a secret. But again, it's like, why would you just drop that on him and be like, good luck dealing with this unexpectedly. Yeah, it makes no sense other than to prove
With a name like Lou, you're either dating a Chinese girl or a large Italian man. So.
Or a Chinese man. Lou's his first name and his last name.
Yeah, even if you rewatch the movie and think about these points too, why wouldn't she have told them already? Not that it's a big deal or anything, but why, if you watch the movie knowing that she knows and she's a part of this whole conspiracy thing, why would she tell him anything that would put him on edge to go visit them at all? Why wouldn't she say, of course they know, they don't care. They've got black people working at their house.
Yeah, completely off guard. Yeah, exactly. Oh, they love, exactly. Well, she was like, oh, my dad loves Barack Obama, blah, 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 blah. He won't shut up about him, but I haven't heard of you're black. No, excellent point, dude. Excellent,
How about, yes, obviously, I sent them a picture of you, and they love you, and I've told them about you.
Right.
Obviously, that's what you would say, because you don't want them to be on edge, you want them to go and feel welcome.
Yeah. And also, my mother's a psychotherapist, and by the way, she can help you with your smoking. All these things she could have seeded in him to make this whole thing much easier with him being hypnotized than having a white person's brain put into him. It's white person's brain in black people 101.
Yes, and then they're there, and there's this party of old white people that come to have an auction on Chris's body, which isn't blatantly stated, but that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And for some reason, all these white people arrive at the exact same time, and they're in nondescript black SUVs. I mean, cliche.
Yeah.
Come on. They all pull up like the Secret Service at the same time, and they're being chummy, feeling on Chris's arms and stuff like that, and asking about sexuality and that type of thing, stereotypes, because they're trying to, they're trying to see if he's a good candidate for a body that they want to inhabit. Now, there's one couple that is there, a woman with a black man, who we find out later is inhabited by her husband's brain, and he also acts like a psycho. So I might be wrong, but it seems like something's not working very well in this transplant, because none of these people who have been successfully transplanted can help but act like psychos. I mean, I understand it's a horror movie, so you got to figure out a way to make it scary, but very, very unbelievable in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some slow synapse firing or something going on there. I agree. It's weird. Like I say earlier, it's like, wouldn't you just talk like a normal person and not talk super slow all the time and have a dead eye?
Act like you've never seen a black man before when you're a black man.
Right? Yeah, it's like you've seen plenty of black people. You've been cycling through them for years. And it's like, this dead fish-eye stare. And then I love how also it's like the camera flash somehow triggers it. They never explain why that is. That the camera, to give you a little background here, the camera flash snaps this guy Logan out, who is inhabited by this woman's husband, and snaps him out of it, and he's like, you gotta get out of here, man. But it's like, why does that snap him out of it?
He doesn't. He just says, get out. He just yells, get out. If that camera flash is triggering the guy who is deep down in there, and he's able to see what's going on and able to interact, is he going to shout, get out? Or is he going to say, dude, they're body snatchers, get the hell out of here?
Yeah, exactly. Try to explain yourself a little bit more, friend there. Yeah,
even the sane people act like psychos.
Yeah, or again, I would just run. Just fucking run, man. Just book it. You're black. They're not going to catch you. They're all old white people there. Yep. No one's gonna catch you except little weird-looking half Macaulay Culkin wrestling guy, Rose's brother, that little mutant.
Another question on this Logan guy: why are him and his wife even there? He's been successfully transplanted. She's not, I assume, not going to be transplanting her brain into a young black dude's body.
Maybe he wants to mix it up.
Whatever. It's your thing. Even if you said, maybe they're there to, just hang out with their friends and mingle and show off a successful transplant, you'd think they'd keep him away from the guy that they know he's going to act like a weirdo around.
Yeah, maybe come next weekend. We'll have the new white person in a black body come by and show him off. Yeah. By the way, you know what I'm wondering was Jordan Peele a big fan of The Simpsons? Because in Itchy and Scratchy, the camera flashes also made the Itchy and Scratchy robots go crazy.
That's true.
There's a conspiracy theory.
Maybe he's a big fan of The Simpsons and King of the Hill, since they had Bill Dauterive as the blind art dealer.
Oh, damn. Look at that. All sorts of connections happening here.
Yep. So do you remember the point where Chris is starting to get weirded out, and he goes to walk up the stairs angrily in the house, and there's all the white rich people mingling and chatting and drinking. He goes up the stairs. He's Only when he's just out of sight, they all go silent and stare up at the ceiling.
I do not remember that exact point.
He can't even be halfway up the stairs. He's got to hear the silence.
Yeah, it's pretty noticeable. I will say it's pretty noticeable when you're anywhere and you hear a slight reducing of the decibel level. Yeah, it's quite surprising. Also, are you getting to the part where he the phone thing? Remember that phone? Is that part that's like right here where his phone is unplugged?
Yes.
And he finds it.
Yep. Okay, he finds it and Grandma unplugged it.
Yeah, Grandma unplugged it, and then she comes in and is like truly psychotic in this moment. And again, though, and it's like I love how he's got no power, but meanwhile, this phone's been up there for hours and hours and hours and hours, and he's still got enough power to make a call or do whatever. It's like, how shitty of a phone do you have? You can't.
Moreover, if she wanted to keep him from using his phone, take the damn phone. Yeah, take the charger.
What's he gonna
Why
do
would
about
you
it?
just unplug it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just take it away. Yeah, what's he going to do at that point? You're already trapped in this house. They've already shipped, what's her face? Well, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. She what's her face? Sure. Rose already's got the keys. You're already in the middle of nowhere. You've already got the cops on your side. Really, why go through the whole charade in general? Why not just put him goddamn in TV room immediately by force?
Exactly. Before we get to that, because this whole entire premise completely goes to shit when you think about the fact that this guy can be hypnotized by tinking on the side of a cup.
Oh, yeah.
Why does any of this happen? all it takes is that, and he's
why does only
immobilized.
one person have the cup and the spoon? If it's that easy, give everybody a teacup and a fucking spoon, man.
Yep. People arriving to the party, here's your complimentary teacup and spoon just in case shit goes down.
Yeah. Just make sure you keep it on you at all times. Because, again, I'll give the background here. When she hypnotizes him, she clinks the spoon around in a circle. She did it like outside when they're having iced tea early in the movie. Then she did it when she's talking to him with her teacup. And the sound of the spoon rimming around the cup is what causes him to fall into a deep hypnosis. But yet, she only has one cup and one spoon, apparently, and nobody else can use it. And God forbid anybody happens to knock over her fucking teacup, then the whole shebang's blown out of the water.
Yep. Which, again, I will say, the hypnosis scene, fantastic. The best and possibly only good scene in the movie, but is very well done, like extremely well acted, and had me on the edge of my seat, even if it was a quick letdown shortly thereafter, and they didn't play into that any further.
When are we getting to Muscle Ginger?
Well, that's a good point. Muscle Ginger, her brother, comes in when they're sitting around the table talking, and yet again, a guy who is not brainwashed, a guy who seems to be cracked out of his mind, but he is he's one of the family. If they're trying to make this guy feel at home, they're doing a shitty job of it. Like, this guy is like being threatening to him, like asking him if he's into MMA, and goes over to give him a headlock during dinner and acting like he's on, I don't know, heroin, crack, something.
Right. He's like bringing up stories of like past boyfriends or something and her first experience. All this shit to fuck with the guy. Yeah, it's like, why would you, and getting super hammered. It's like, why don't you just relax and be nice and accommodating to this guy? I mean, come on, man.
Go up to your room and play Xbox.
Right, yeah. Or go watch some MMA videos. Or go watch that weird porn that exists of girls MMA fighting each other naked, which I've never seen.
Of course. Even the dad acts like a psycho to him. They like walk into the kitchen when he first gets there, and he's like, this is the kitchen where his mom used to work. And he's like, we even left a piece of her here. Why? Then they go into the hallway. He's like showing him these pictures of runners on the wall, which apparently his dad inhabited one of the bodies of that beat him. And he's like,
wait, is that what happened?
Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yep, I didn't catch that till today. The dad is talking about how his dad was beat by this black guy in a race, and he was a runner and everything, and he was like, see, race doesn't matter. You can be good even if you're black, which is whatever. But then Chris says something like, oh, that must suck. And he's like, yeah, it did. Or something like just something ominous that didn't need to be said, if any of this makes sense. I know we're totally nitpicking a horror movie, which there is no horror movie that you can't nitpick apart.
Hey man,
but
this is what podcasts were invented to do. Nitpick horror movies. To talk about shit that need never be talked about. That's what podcast exists for.
Again, all of this wouldn't matter if my point wasn't to say this is a horror movie that has 99%. How does it have a 99% without or with all this shit in there?
Well, you know what?
How come nobody's talking about these plot holes?
I saw Alien, whatever the newest Alien was, and that movie had like 70% positive. I had high hopes, and it was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Really?
One of the worst. It's awful. Incredibly stupid, obvious. People did the same dumb things they do in every horror movie. And you know what? That's one thing I'll give this, though, is that it did not have as many of the straight up horror cliches as you're used to seeing. And that was to me refreshing.
Well, yes and no. It did have a lot of jump scares, which were all grandma. It did have some creep out stuff. It did have the jump scare of the Bambi getting smashed at the beginning of the movie. And it also had the cliche of brother getting his head bashed in. We're jumping ahead again.
Oh,
but
yeah. And
brother
then,
getting his head bashed in. No way he's alive.
Give him one more whack, just for good measure, by the way.
He jumps out and takes him down. Yeah.
Yeah, that was very annoying.
The cliche of dead guy coming back to life just to...
Well, and people not finishing what they started. There's one rule you always got to follow. Look, people, public service announcement. If you're going to kill somebody and they're after you, make sure you smash their head in until it is an unrecognizable pile of mush.
Absolutely. You have no reason not to. What is on your agenda other than making sure that guy's dead?
Right, exactly. You don't want to have to look behind your shoulder. Kill him good.
So they do this bingo auction for Chris. They do it out on the front lawn in the middle of day. While Chris is there, sure, they went for a walk, but they're doing it in a place where he was just standing not 10 minutes earlier. They're doing the silent auction for him, which they play up as bingo. They're holding up bingo cards like it's almost as if Chris were to come back, they could say, hey, we were just playing bingo. They've got a picture of Chris sitting right there.
A huge picture, like a what is it, about 3x4?
Yeah. Yes, it's a giant picture of Chris there. Let's forget the fact that everybody there knows what they're there for. Is anybody confused on which black guy we're voting for here, or we're auctioning for here? But you've got that out there.
They don't get a lot of them coming through there, but they got to make sure that, that was a little bit ham-fisted filmmaking, I agree, by Jordan Peele. You could have easily accomplished that exact same scene, not having his picture up there, and just having them bid while he's gone, and then leaving it to the imagination. What are they bidding on? And then, because it's revealed anyway later... So what's the point of, it's like that show don't tell, but you're overly showing and telling at the same time in this.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The guy's right down the river. It's like he could have wandered back anytime. Anytime is wandered back.
Yeah, they assume that Rose would be able to overpower him if he just says, I think something is going on here, and I'm going to go back and see what's going on. Obviously, Rose would be able to stop him.
Yeah, and I love the blind guy, the blind art dealer / wanted to be a photographer guy is the one that wins him. This is a fairly, I think, sequence. So, this guy wins him, and he outbids everybody because he's got the money, and he told him earlier that, I never had the eye, but you've got the eye. So, by taking over his brain, yes, you get his actual physical eyeballs, but I'm thinking there's more to it than that.
That doesn't mean you have the talent to capture the picture.
I mean, basically,
you have the eyes to see.
Running
That's it.
quickly, maybe you can run quickly in that body, but you have to have the understanding of framing and composure and how everything interacts with each other.
If you're blocking off Chris's mind, you're blocking off the creative part that is actually capturing the picture.
Right. It makes zero sense that this guy is going to try to take over his body for that explicit purpose. Just is so dumb. I mean, I get it. If you want it just because you're blind, fine. But just be like, I just don't want to be blind anymore.
Right.
Don't do this whole ridiculous backstory to justify it.
So all that goes down. This guy wins Chris. Chris and Rose come back, and she tells him that they can leave. They can go home because he's thoroughly creeped out. So they're going back to the house to get all their shit and go home. As they're walking into the house, the family is all standing around outside giving him creepy-ass looks again because they're trying to make him think nothing's going on, right? And the brother's like playing a ukulele, coked out of his mind or something.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, where did that guy get his drugs? Why did they have him act that cracked out? I mean, I know he's the psycho, and you find out later that he's the guy that was kidnapping. He kidnapped the original guy, Logan, who was the guy's husband. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the whole time, I mean, none of it makes sense in the way they're interacting with people.
One of my biggest issues is that he's sitting in the room. There's an open closet door there. He does the most miraculous detective work ever, opens the closet door, finds a red box that has pictures in it, sitting right inside of it.
Because why would you hide that?
Goes through 3 pictures and finds all these other people that she's been with.
All these other black people, got to be specific than that.
Yep.
Including Johnny Cuts Woods a Lot Grandpa, which
Exactly.
Hopefully she was banging him before he got in that body.
Right.
But really, if you're grandpa, though, let's be honest. If you're grandpa, you know, you got this young thing, it's
Right.
at least a generation removed. You're not going to consider pretending the thing didn't take. But yeah, why would you not hide that? You wouldn't hide that box a little bit better. Like, why would you ever have that? And the door kept opening, like they wanted him to find it.
Right.
So why would you have that door? Like, not. Is there people crawling in and out of that door? Is there something where you want him to find the box? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Again, It's warning him off that this chick's had these previous black boyfriends over and over again. Nothing about that makes sense.
Yeah, and then they capture him, take him downstairs, and they hypnotize him to get him there, but they don't keep him hypnotized. They feel like waking him back up and showing him this infomercial about what's going to happen to his brain for some reason and telling him everything that's going to go on and then put him back to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I remember thinking that when I saw it. I was like, what? What's the point? I thought there was going to be something in it that was part of the hypnosis, but no. Just right back to the teacup sound. And but you know what? They were probably like most of us where they're like, you know what? We spent the money in production on this commercial. We might as well get our money's worth. And on the oldest TV ever, too. I like that they didn't update the TV that they're watching on.
Exactly.
It's like a Zenith from 1964.
Where are they plugging that HDMI cable to get that live feed to Bill Dauterive there?
It's a very, very good question. And I do not know the answer. Maybe they got a Wi-Fi connection stabbed in the back of it.
Yep. Anyway, as we said, he kills the brother. They do all this shit to try and stop him. Rose doesn't hear any of it somehow. She's got her earbuds in, so she doesn't hear any of this going on. However, when he goes outside, gets in the car, and starts to drive away, he hits Grandma, and then she hears that down the road.
Oh, wait, hold on. You skipped one thing. Was that they spent about 10 minutes with Rose pretending to look for the goddamn keys in her purse for 10 minutes. She's like, I can't find the keys, baby. I can't find them. And he's like, honey, we got to go. We got to get out of there. And she's like, I just can't find the keys. And then finally pulls them out and be like, oh, I have the keys. It's like, why waste the time? We all knew you had the keys. Why are you wasting our time pretending you don't have the keys? Just be like, hey, guess what? You're fucked. And then help out your family and knocking them out. How about that? Maybe that's a better idea.
I can't help but mention also his buddy Rod, who's in the TSA, which they give the TSA so much credit in this movie.
Oh, my God, yeah. Which is funny because you think
this
TSA
guy
would like maybe there's a lot of black people that work for the TSA, so he likes them. But I would think they give black people as much shit as they give white people. Nobody likes the TSA.
Right. But he is this apparently master mystery man. No, he is a friend of Chris. So Rod goes into the police station. He's talking to them. They won't give him any help. Even they're all black for whatever reason. But they won't give Rod any help. So Rod does a Bing search, which is the least believable thing in this movie, in my opinion. But Rod does a Bing search for this guy that Logan's body, and he comes up with like 50,000 responses on his search. Seems a little bit out there that you would have 50,000.
Very popular.
Apparently. And actually, if you look at the third entry on this search, it has like highlighted words for like dog feed and feeding your dog and stuff like that.
I think you're going to say that highlighted for like guys who look like Mos Def.
Yes.
That would make sense.
But yeah, so Rose hears him run into Grandma, even though she heard nothing else. She comes out with a shotgun to chase him down. For some reason, doesn't feel like shooting him because Grandma's in the car. And they keep, again, panderingly pointing out the fact that these are her grandma and grandpa. She walks out and she says, she sees the car speeding away, and she says, Grandma. And Chris hits Grandma, picks her up, puts her in the car. He thinks that she's just a crazy black woman. And then Rose comes out with a shotgun. Instead of shooting at him, well, Grandpa's there at that point. She says, get him, Grandpa. She's got a shotgun in her hand. She tells Grandpa to chase after him on foot.
Well, he's fast. He was a track runner, and he's got this brand spanking new black body.
You know what's faster than a track runner? A shotgun.
It's like that song. All the kids with their kicks, got to outrun my bullet. Foster the people.
Sure.
You like music, Dan. Foster the people.
Yep. So Chris gets out of the car. Grandpa's got him pegged down, and Chris flashes him with his camera, and Grandpa snaps out of it. Rose had to have seen that flash, for one thing. She had to have seen that flash. And she has to know what that flash does to him. Grandpa stands up and says, "Let me do it." He takes the gun, shoots her in the stomach.
Yeah, not in the face.
Why the stomach?
Yeah, let her bleed out slow, Old West style.
And then he kills himself. And Chris tries to, or pretends to kill her. And you think, to wrap it up here, the cop car comes up, and you assume that it's going to be the stereotypical, exactly what you thought it was going to be. He gets caught strangling a white woman and one more racial punch in the gut. Mm-hmm. But it is his TSA friend who, with no clues, no anything, figures out from a Bing search where this guy is out in the middle of nowhere, even though nobody ever found the guy that he was searching for.
Yeah, I don't know how he found me. I was trying to figure that out. How the fuck he got the address. He's going through these winding country roads, and how he got there in time. It's like, come on.
Yep. TSA agent.
But here's the thing, and it ends happily ever after. But here's the thing.
Well, it doesn't end happily ever after. They turn around and drive away and leave all the evidence there, and the still alive white woman who was in charge of it all. They leave everybody there, and they drive away into the night.
She ends up dead. But granted, his evidence, there's evidence all over the place to implicate them. But I read this interview with Jordan Peele, and what I was telling you earlier is that there was an alternate ending to the movie, an original ending, and it was literally the punch in the gut you just described, which we all saw coming, which is that the white cop pulls up. You've got all this evidence to implicate him with the shotgun, and he's there, and people are dead, and the white people are dead, and then he goes to jail. And of course, who's going to believe him because there's all these dead white people and a black guy. And I'm reading this, and I saw this alternate ending. I think it was on like the on demand when I ordered because I watched it at home.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, yeah, man, I know you're trying to make a point that a black guy is not going to get a fair shake because it's white people, but there's a mountain of damn evidence again. It could be a white person, it could be a Japanese person. When you have a shotgun there and all these dead people, and you're the only one that's not in the family, you're going to jail and you're not going to get out. They're not going to believe you. Like, what point is this going to make other than, yes, there's a shitload of evidence, you're going to jail. Period. I don't care what fucking lawyer you have, unless you get Al Sharp. They're not Al Sharp. Unless you get a Kardashian in there, dig him up and put him on there. It's just it was so stupid.
So you're saying was that the alternate ending, or was that
the original ending?
Okay. So I saw the alternate.
You saw the alternate ending. He changed it. That was the theatrical ending, though, that they used. And they changed it because Jordan Peele, I think they changed it because audiences were like, are you fucking kidding me? This is dumb. There's a mountain of evidence. But
so
he said
obvious,
it's because, it's so obvious. But he said it was because he saw, all this reaction to black men being killed by police and the Black Lives Matter. And he was like, you know what? We need a different message right now. We need a message of hope for people. We need a message of hope.
You need a message of hope?
This is, I swear to
and
God,
that's what you went with?
Said, man. Yes, I read a Collider article on it today where it was quoting him. That's what he said. This is the message of hope. And that's why he changed it, which is a ridiculous explanation.
That's such an issue in all of this, is that whether you agree with it or not, it's not helping. I mean, it might be exposing something, but it's really pandering. It's really divisive. So, yeah, like you were saying, there's a mountain of evidence. They have a frickin' laboratory in their basement with people with the tops of their heads cut off. They still have Bill Dauterive in the basement with his head chopped open and a dead guy in a laboratory uniform standing or laying there next to him who's dead. But instead they have the least believable ending, even more so. They have a TSA guy who comes up and says, I'm motherfucking TSA, man. We take care of shit. It's like,
but you know what? I prefer that vastly, though. That ending is tough. And I don't mind that. It's funny because I watch a lot of films. I try to dabble in screenwriting as well as comedy, but I don't mind endings like that as much as I mind cliche. I need to make a point. Stupid endings, which are coming. I'd rather have it end on just like a thing like that, where you're like, meh. All right, like at least I'm not leaving the theater angry as I would be if that initial ending had actually been.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're over time for you. You got to go walk your damn
My
dog.
dogs.
And your
and
perfect
I gotta eat dinner. I'm gonna
life.
eat dinner while going to the dog park. To keep my
Sure.
hands separate so I don't get from the dog ball on my burrito, my sushi burrito, because I live in California. That's how we eat here.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this movie? And after that, anything you want to plug? But more importantly, any final thoughts on this brilliant movie?
Final thoughts is just that, I feel it was very overrated. I felt it was, I didn't feel it was incredibly clever in any way, shape, or form. I thought it was a very transparent commentary on, one man's feeling on racial matters, and that people basically bought into that concept and went along with it because the Times dictated that they went along with it and said that they supported his vision. Again, not to say it was a bad film necessarily. I had a fine time watching it, but
is it 99%?
It wasn't a 99% film. No. And here you go. I got to plug it. Yeah, please, guys, if you're interested in hearing some political chat, listen to Lions of Liberty. I have a show on Wednesday called Electric Liberty Land, which I do a little bit of joking around. It's a little bit of funny shit as well as libertarian commentary. And, of course, keep listening to the great Dan Smots here.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And maybe we'll have you on again. Next time, maybe we'll talk about the new Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I'll have to watch it. I'll watch it for you. I'll watch that piece of dog shit for you.
We'll just watch I haven't seen it yet either, but maybe we'll just watch all these movies that are hot button topics and get together and chat about them, and we can be called racist, sexist, and everything under the sun.
Maybe I'll watch Wonder Woman. I haven't seen that yet. We can discuss that next.
Sounds
see
good.
If that's worth it. All right, buddy. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yep, no problem. I'll talk to you later, man. Have a good one. Hey there, thanks for sticking around to the end of the show. If you enjoyed it and would like to hear more movie massacres with Brian McWilliams in the future, let him know. You can do so directly by heading over to the TSID Open Discussion Forum, which Brian is actually a contributing member of at tsidpod.com/forum. And just post something on there like, hey, Brian, that thing you did, I like that thing. Do that thing again. Whatever. Also, be sure to check out Brian's show, Electric Liberty Land, on the Lions of Liberty podcast every single Wednesday for an entertaining dose of culture, comedy, and liberty. And while you're trolling around the web this week, head over to iTunes and subscribe and review both the Lions of Liberty podcast and The System is Down, and help us both grow our audiences and validate all the time we spend on doing this nonsense. I'd also greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my downer heart if you'd go like and follow this show on Facebook at /The System is Down, and on Twitter using the Twitter handle TSIDpod. Do all of that, and we'll keep this ball rolling first thing next week with another great episode. Until then, question everything and stay uncomfortable. Thanks. This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.